Hey, welcome to Teach Coach Mentor Podcast. It's Mike Wish, and today my guest is Arielle Jordan. Welcome to the show, Arielle. How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. So let's tell everybody your background and all that'll be in the show notes, but they want to hear from you. So please tell everybody who you are and what you do. And I know you work with veterans, and you've got a really interesting background. So please just tell us all about it.
Yeah, so I'm a licensed mental health therapist. I'm licensed in Maryland and Virginia. So that's kind of my primary doing trauma therapy. I work with a lot of veterans, first responders, pretty much anybody with complex trauma. And last year I partnered with the Headstrong project, and they've been pretty awesome as far as like offering veterans free care, which is hard to find,
Yeah.
besides like outside of the VA.
Hmm.
Um, so that has been pretty awesome to be able to serve in that way. And then I also partner sometimes with the Disabled American Veterans Patriot Boot Camp. So there we're mentoring entrepreneurs, and they have a really good program that helps people from like maybe like beginning stages, and you just learn so much in that program. So that's
Yeah.
been pretty awesome to be able to speak there and serve veterans in that way as well. And then I've recently started doing the AI shift here locally. So the Veteran Services Center will allow us to do like workshops and stuff there, and they have like so many services, so it's a perfect like hub to be in Frederick.
Yeah.
And so we've been teaching people how to use AI for like mental health and furthering their career as well, or like taking their military experience and translating it into something that they can do, today. Because when you leave, you're still experienced. It's just how do you word it for these civilian jobs out here. So that's a little bit like a overview.
Yeah.
I do
Well,
a
that's what
lot.
those are the things that drew me to you and why I asked you to come on the show. It's this intersection of
Yeah.
all things that I'm interested in, which is entrepreneurship and
Hmm.
veteran mental health and AI. And I was like, this girl's doing all of these things at the same time. It's amazing. So tell me more about,
Yeah.
I'm really curious because I've not talked to anybody about using AI on the mental health side. And so
Hmm.
I am fully invested and my interest is piqued on that. So what can you, well,
Yeah.
and also, by the way, I want to, before you answer that question, don't let me
Uh-huh.
forget, I want to share Headstrong in the show notes so that veterans can
Yes.
go get free mental health assistance and help. That's amazing. So definitely want to do that. But also in the meantime, how can we start using AI to help us with our mental health?
Well, okay, so one way that I really love is an app called PTSD Coach,
Okay.
and it was developed by the VA. So, like, it's
Oh,
legit.
wow.
It went through all the testing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's really cool because you don't have to have PTSD to use it.
Okay.
You can have, severe anxiety, depression, you name it. But what happens when you download the app, like it takes a little time to download, so give it a second. But it has tools on there. So like it doesn't replace therapy. Nothing will replace therapy.
Yeah, of course.
But if you have a moment, in the midnight hour and you're like, what the heck? I don't even know what to do with myself. I can't sleep, or I'm reliving trauma, or I'm just really angry about something. I feel triggered. Then you can click that. Like it'll ask you like, what are your symptoms? And you can click it, and it'll say, okay, well, how angry are you? 0 to 10. And you'll rate it. And then it'll say, okay, we'll try this activity. And then you'll
Hmm.
do the activity. And then it'll ask you again, how angry are you now? 0 to 10.
Okay.
And so it helps manage the symptoms. It doesn't
Yeah.
like fully resolve them or anything like that, but I help people like paint a realistic expectation.
Yeah.
And, if we could just turn it down just a notch, that's enough.
Yeah.
So that's one tool that I really love. And
Okay.
there's like so many different apps. The VA even has come up with like 30 some apps. I don't know. I
I
don't
haven't
work for the
even heard of
VA,
these.
but
This is
when I find
crazy.
tools, I will tell people. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Oh my gosh. That so many people I'll ask like, "Hey, have you heard of this?" And
Yeah.
most I will say 90% of them say no. And I'm like, me
Man,
either until I started to research.
VA needs to get
Um,
its marketing together, you know?
oh my gosh. I'm like, hire me, I'll do it.
Yeah,
Like, but it's a really great tool. And I don't just use it with veterans either. Like I use
sure.
it with just anybody because
Yeah.
literally even myself, like if I can't sleep, I'll click on the app and it'll
Mm.
say, here, try this relaxation activity. And
Yeah.
I'll try it and I might fall asleep, you know?
Okay. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that sounds amazing. I will definitely check that out for sure. And again, we'll link that in the show notes too. So tell me more about maybe your approach in terms of working with veterans, whether it's PTSD or other issues, anxiety, anger. Um,
Yeah.
I know that's kind of a broad question, but what are the trends that you see? Have have things changed? I know I come up from a generation where everybody did multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. And now, we have a newer generation of folks that haven't served, and yet, people still have problems. I think we pretend like, well, if you didn't go to combat multiple times, then your problems aren't real. And that's not true,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know,
Yeah.
what are you seeing over time and what are you seeing today? And, what exercises could people implement without an app that might be able to help them through a tough moment while they're waiting to schedule an appointment with you?
Yeah, like so I mean, you're right. Like there are different problems that come with like combat and coming back home, but it doesn't dismiss what everybody, everybody has something.
Yeah.
And I know like for me, even in basic training where we're having these conversations where it's like, so why'd you join the army? And we were talking amongst each other. Nobody really says to serve my country, and that's it. Like
Yeah.
that's not really true. Now that comes with it, absolutely, that's part of it. However, usually people have come from homes where they needed to get out or life was terrible or
Yeah.
there were no opportunities. So this is why I chose to serve. And so like even from before service, there's something
Yeah.
and then you go into service and that might add to whatever the something was. And so like you'll see that it's not uncommon to see that. And then these days, I mean, I don't know, there's so much going on that people are just overly anxious. They are, not without coping skills. And
Yeah.
so we'll go and just get a drink instead, and that's
Mm.
kind of the norm. Like we'll go drink together.
Yeah.
And so it's really the community that is helpful, but also it's the escape away from the problems for momentarily.
Yeah.
So things you can do would be to, educate yourself on what works best for you. The go-to is always going to be like, you can do deep breathing exercises, but sometimes people don't want to hear that, they're
Yeah.
like, okay, what else can I do? And that's why I started to look for other things like the app because people are like, okay, yes, I know. Deep breathing still works, by the way. There's science behind that, why it
Yeah.
works, but some people want more. They're like, okay, and what else, And so that's when I will offer the app, but I will look up like other tools, like
Yeah.
um, tools where you can go through and get in touch with your body and contract your muscles and feel what tension feels like and let the tension go and
Mm.
those kind of things, which really helps our brain like get rid of some of that anxious energy.
Yeah. So this is a question that I've wanted to ask for a while, which is, I don't know, when I joined the Marine Corps, I enlisted in 2003. And,
Hmm.
I'm not going to do the old man back then kind of thing, but a little bit because times were different. And you didn't
Yeah.
talk about your problems. You sucked
Yeah.
it up. You handled it. And it's
Yep.
not that we didn't talk to each other, but it
Yeah.
was definitely, you had to find the right moment, and it was with a close friend and somebody you trusted, and maybe that's who you talked to. But a lot of
Yeah.
guys didn't talk. Um, and then
Mhm.
I don't remember when this happened, but sometime probably in the '07, '08 timeframe, maybe all the way up to 2012 or so. It's just kind of what
Mhm.
I'm remembering. There was a big push to work on mental health issues in the military, a big push to get folks to open up, talk about the problems, right? Try to destigmatize getting help.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it has worked. Right? That I'm concerned about. That
Yeah.
is, it's never been more incentivized to talk about your problems and go get help.
Mhm.
And yet, I don't know, and I'd have to dig into the data, but I think mental health issues are still a problem.
Mhm.
So, where is that coming from? What's the real source? Why didn't that work? And what can we do for folks that are struggling right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm like you. Like, I feel like I have to dig into the data
Yeah.
to, really see. But what I think, is that you can, preach it and try to destigmatize it and all of that. But if you don't support it, then it doesn't really go anywhere. Like,
Mm,
if you're for army, we would be like the sick call ranger, right? Like, you're always in sick call. We're
mm,
make like it's a joke. It's an ongoing joke, but like also you really might need that. So like to destigmatize it, like it needs to be supported too. So if you're
yeah.
that person that, gets out medically or something like that, where are the jobs for the person that, gets out medically? What are they supposed to do with their life now that they did, go for their mental health and they were deemed that they were unfit for duty. So then, like,
Mm,
how are we supporting them? Because now it's a livelihood. And so if I'm gonna tell you that I'm not unwell, and I
yeah.
know that's gonna be my livelihood, then I'm not gonna tell you that I'm unwell.
Yeah.
So, I think it's on both sides. Like, yeah, we can talk about it, but is anybody gonna like really help me on the other side
It's
of
the
that? And
catch
I think
22,
sometimes we
right?
fall short in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's
Exactly.
something you mentioned earlier. You talked about community, and I feel like that's one thing that has deteriorated both, frankly, in the service and out. And by that I mean, when again, when I was a young enlisted guy, we all lived, almost everybody lived in the barracks. We had three
Mm-hmm.
or four guys to a room, or sometimes two or three guys to one room, but then the head was connected, right? The bathroom was connected between two rooms, so they weren't exactly roommates, but they were kind of roommates on the other side. And like,
Pretty
yeah,
much.
people
Yeah.
had phones, but there was no internet on the phone, and texting and
Hmm.
calling was expensive, so it's not like you used it all that often, and
Right.
very few people had cars. And the net result of that, and maybe that sounds terrible to people now, but like the net result is that you just hung out with people all the time. This is all you
Yeah.
that was all there was to do, was just hang out, maybe play video
Yeah.
games, watch movies, go out. But now I
Yeah,
see,
we played cards.
yeah,
I remember being in Germany having a calling card to call
yeah,
home. And I'm
yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we sent emails and then we would like play cards and talk junk to each other.
That's right.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, it's so different now.
And now everybody, I do have my phone here. I'm not on it, but everybody's just doing this all the time, and they're not hanging
Yeah.
out with each other. And like, I'm glad that they're getting paid more, and I'm glad that the barracks have improved, but
Yeah,
they
definitely.
they hang out in their room on devices all day, and they have their own cars, and so they're not. I don't know, that camaraderie and that community seems to not be there.
Yeah.
And then especially when you're on the outside too, we're the most connected we've ever been, and yet we seem to be the most disconnected that we've ever been. So
Yeah,
how do we?
it's crazy because I see it in business too, and I'm like,
Yeah,
if you guys are like doing the same thing, then why don't you like partner and use each other's audience and make a
yeah,
bigger impact? And I don't know what that's about. I don't know,
it's a tough
but I
one.
do see it, and
Yeah,
I've encountered it, and there are some people that I will get with and will do great things, and then there are some other people who are like, I don't know. We're gonna do our own thing, and which is fine, But I think we're better together. So if we could like learn how to do things together, then I think we'll go further,
yeah,
and it'll
yeah.
be easier.
Absolutely. I had a guest on the show a few weeks ago named John Cook, and he's
Mhm.
got an organization that's really geared towards men and problems that young men are facing. And we talked about how, you know, you also used to go out in town and hang out with each other in town, whether it was a bowling league or go to the pub and have a pint, as he would say. He's from the UK, and I don't see that happening nearly as much either. And I'll be honest, I've been terrible at it too, about making time. And
Same.
got a family, I got kids, and but it's
Yep.
still, we have our this sliver of our lives that is ours, and we need to go. As a guy, I need to go hang out with
Yeah.
guys. Sometimes as a young lady, you want to go hang out with the girls, and I don't
Hmm.
know, the bowling leagues and the bar things and all those have seemed to have gone away, and I think we need to bring them back, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
leave
I
the
mean,
devices at the
you
front
have to
door.
be like, you have to be super intentional. Like when you have the kids and the family and all the things, it's like, okay, listen, Friday evening,
Yeah,
carve out some time. We're gonna do this. But it's really hard to do that. And then even when you do that, it's like, okay, now the kid is sick and now we got to take care of them. like I stay home and do that, or I'm sick, or like whatever is going on. But I think having like a date and time helps, like busy adults get together,
Yeah.
which I try to do myself. And none of us are gonna be, perfect at it. But I think having a date and time is enough to like say we're gonna lock in here, even if it's just a video call or whatever. We'll play cards and watch a movie or whatever we do. But I think just like that is a little bit of effort there. Like if we lock in a
Yeah.
date, I mean, we had to lock in a date to do this, and here we both
That's right.
are. So
That's
we
right.
made it happen.
Yeah. I'm always a big proponent of calendaring things, right? And, even if it's
Yeah.
calendaring time with your family, some people think that might be strange, but what you're doing is you're making it a priority when you do that. And you're saying nothing
Yes.
else gets in the way of this thing. So put your family on the calendar, put your friends on the calendar, get it on there so that
Put your
you're committed and
yeah.
prioritized uh, and live your life that way, right?
Put a nap on the calendar. Put the gym, like
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I'm
Man,
very
I wish
much
I had more naps on my calendar. That would be amazing. Yeah. I'd
listen,
be,
I try. So when I have a
yeah,
gap, I'm like, I could probably take a nap here if it's like an hour or something. Yeah, I could do that.
there you
But I think I very much live by my calendar as well, but I think it makes life more intentional because if I don't have something on my calendar, I know like, okay, you need to rest. Like resting
go.
is okay too, especially as
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. How many times do we do that? We're so go, 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 but some really beautiful ideas can come out of your rest or some connections. If you're rested, you can grow them a little bit better because you have some more capacity to do that.
Yeah. One of the things I struggle to convince young folks of is that you need to spend some time being bored. I think because we have the devices all the time and
Yes.
everything moves so fast that we just get addicted to not being bored. And
Yeah.
this is evident. You see anybody in a line for half a second and the phone's out, right? Or you
Yeah.
even sometimes you go to put it away and you're like, I don't want to be on it right now. And 10 seconds later, you have it right back out. And you're like, wait a minute, I just put this away. Like, why
Yep.
am I on my phone again? And I think it's really important to be bored because you do a lot of your best thinking when you're bored. And I think some of your best ideas come out when you're bored, right? It just forces you to deal with yourself for a minute. So I don't know
I think
what you think
so.
about that, but
I think when it comes to like emotions too, because like when everything slows down, whatever's in there is gonna come up. So,
yeah,
and a lot of times we try to run from that. And it's like if you run from it, it's gonna catch up to you eventually. Or if you bury it, it's gonna get heavier. It's not gonna go away.
yeah,
So when it comes to like slowing down, yeah, you gotta deal with your stuff.
that's right.
So sometimes people don't want to slow down because I'm going to be emotional or this is going to affect me in some way and I'm going to have to do
Yeah,
something about it.
yeah.
So it can be scary.
Yeah, for sure. Well, tell me a little bit more. I want to switch towards the entrepreneurial organization that you're working with. What are you doing exactly with that, and how are vets involved? I don't know. Tell me more. I'd love to hear more about it.
So I went to Patriot Boot Camp as
Patriot
a
Boot Camp. That's right.
participant.
Okay. Oh, you're a
Yeah.
participant there.
Yeah, I was a participant and then I was like, I love this. Like this,
Yeah.
I met a mentor there and I was like, this is super helpful when you feel alone in your business to talk to somebody who's been doing it for 20 years. Like that
Yeah.
was very helpful. It still is. And after that cohort, I was like, okay, what else can I do? So I said, can I speak on behalf of mental health of entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
And I didn't. There's a gap there. I didn't see that. So the next time I went back as a speaker, so
That's
that was really
amazing.
cool. And like I connected with somebody there, and we did. There was a women's event going on the same time, so I got to do both. I was like at
Yeah.
Patriot Boot Camp, and then I went to this other event, and they had Katie Couric as the keynote. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
like 800 women. It was so cool. It's
Yeah.
in Cincinnati, Ohio, and they do it every year. It's called Power to Pursue,
Okay.
and so I got to do both. I was like, oh, this is cool, making the most use of my time. And I'm still talking about mental health topics to a different group. And I'm
Yeah.
also giving the veteran's perspective because as a
Yeah.
veteran woman, um, there are some things that are a little bit different than, just never having served.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just highlighting some of those differences was cool too. And then like if you experience like loss or grief while you're in the service, it looks a little bit different, because you have to keep going. The mission doesn't stop.
Yeah.
So, those kind of things. But that's how I got involved. I was a participant first, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I was like, how can I do this? And then they're always looking for mentors. So you can always like, if you've been through the program, you can always sign up to mentor or
Okay.
volunteer some of your time to do that.
Yeah.
Um, but it really forms a lot of great connections. People find like mentors that they stay in contact with much, longer than the program. So
Yeah.
they're really doing a beautiful thing, and it's at no cost to the vet. And their spouses can come too. So they also are promoting like, that kind of family. Like usually if you're an entrepreneur, your spouse is involved some way,
Yeah.
so let's get them trained. Let's get them to know the stuff too.
Love it.
And that way we work as a unit, that's really good.
Well, yeah. Well, congratulations on the speaking opportunity. And what maybe you can just share a little bit about what you said there in terms of, mindset for veterans who are in the entrepreneurial space. Would love to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess the gist of it is like the forward movement that I want people to have and the emotional intelligence while you're doing it,
Okay.
because a lot of times we don't make the space for that. And
Yeah.
so I usually use the example of three chairs, and I'll say, who you were still matters. Like you got to bring that with you. That's the survivor.
Yeah.
And who you are, we got to sit in the present sometimes too. And the present is the one with the wisdom I've learned from where I've come from.
Hmm.
And then the other chair is the future, where we're going, the visionary. So we have to have all three.
Yep.
And we're not getting rid of one or just sitting in, like we're sitting in all three chairs. So
Yeah.
that's what I like to talk about. Like the visionary is the one with the mic. And so, I'm the one speaking right now. But all of those other versions of me matter too. So I can't leave them behind. It just
Yeah.
makes us a better person when we acknowledge all three. So as you're like, moving through your entrepreneur journey, don't throw away who you used to be, because we can take some of those good parts with us, and while we're sitting in it and using that wisdom that we have now, also thinking about where we want to go, because we
Yeah.
need that too. So I try to think about like the different mindsets of where we are and things like that. I know the book E-Myth was really good. If you've ever read that book, I
I
forgot
haven't.
who the author is, but it's
Okay.
a really popular book. I can look it up.
I
But
got
like yeah, that book is really good. I think it's an older book. Michael Gerber is the author. But
you.
in the
Okay.
book he talks about like the different roles that you have to play in your
Yeah.
business, and he
Yeah.
really does a nice job of breaking it down of like what businesses can do to be more successful, and how you should think of it this way, and are you
Okay.
doing a little bit too much of this when you need to be doing that. And so
Yeah.
I think it's a really great book, because after I did my talk, I started to read the recommended books, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
we're on some similar wavelengths here, so that's
Yeah.
a good book to read.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for the recommendation. I want to finish it up with, just one piece of advice that you might have for vets who are struggling with mental issues, or vets who are in the entrepreneurial space that might be having a hard time. But before you answer that question, tell me, where can people find you, and what are you working on now, and how can folks connect?
So they can find me at bio.ariellejordan.com. That
Okay.
has all of the links, all of the work, all of the previous podcasts, the social media, all of that. So I
Yeah,
put it all in one place.
we'll have
Um,
that in the show
so
notes.
that's where you can find me.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
I'll make sure that you have that as well. Um, and as far as one piece of advice, I'm always going to say 988 if you're really struggling. 988 is the number that you can call and text.
Yeah.
988 plus one gets you to the military people, the people that are trained in military
Okay.
culture, because we are just a little bit different, And
Yeah, we're
so,
strange folks.
yeah, so I mean, I don't know, we're kind of like a different breed, but I think
Yeah.
we're also great.
No, I
So,
agree. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so if we need a little added support, please go get it. 988 plus one, and somebody will be there to talk to you. It doesn't matter what you're going through. Like
Yeah.
literally, if you need a little extra support, that's the mental health line. It doesn't mean that it's 911, that it's an
Mm.
emergency. If you have an emergency, still call 911. But
Yeah.
988 is somebody that's there for you, And so some of these tools that we can use, use them. We are not exempt just because we were vets, just because we're entrepreneurs or whatever great things that we do in life. We are not exempt from the struggle.
Yeah.
So, when it comes, seek support. That is not a weakness, it's actually strength.
Yeah.
So that would be what I leave, the encouraging words that I leave.
Well, that's great advice. Thank you so much for coming on, Ariel. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.